What's going on, everyone? Golden Ticket to History coming to you from a cemetery about 30 minutes outside of downtown Orlando, Florida, in the small town of Winter Garden. I'm here because in this cemetery is the final resting place of one of the victims of one of the most famous female serial killers of all time.
Vision had come upon a abandoned vehicle on I-75 southbound. When they ran the VIN number on the vehicle, it came back to a reported missing person by the name of David Spears.
Aileen Wournos was a female who was eventually executed in the Florida State prison system for the murder of multiple men while working as a prostitute in the late 1980s up until 1990. Aileen Wournos was the first American female serial killer executed in the state of Florida. She killed her victims while working as a prostitute in the back roads of Florida. Her second victim, unfortunate victim, was from a small town here in Central Florida. And this is where he lays at rest. Right over here. David Andrew Spears, born July 20th, 1942, at rest May 19th, 1990. He passed away on May 19th, 1990, after being shot 6 times by Aileen with a .22 pistol. His body wasn't found until June 1st of 1990, declothed off the Route 19 in Citrus County, Florida. David was only 47 years old. He was a construction worker who was out of town working when he met up with Aileen. That ultimately led to his death. He was a loving husband. His wife is laid to rest. His wife, final resting place will be next to him. She was born on May 1st, 1948, but there is no death date. Aileen Wournos was born on February 29, 1956, in Rochester, Michigan, growing up in nearby Troy area to the south. The young Wournos experienced horrifying tumult during her childhood. Her father killed himself while serving prison time for child molestation charges, while her mother abandoned Wournos and her older brother Keith with her grandparents. Yet Wournos' grandmother was allegedly to be an alcoholic, and her grandfather was very violent and abusive. It was later in late 1989 into the fall of 1990, Wournos had murdered at least 6 men along Florida's highways in mid-December 1989. The body of Richard Mallory was found in a junkyard, with 5 more men's bodies to be discovered over subsequent months. Authorities were eventually able to track down Wournos, who had used various aliases, and more from fingerprints and palm prints left in the crashed vehicle of another missing man, Peter Sims. Wournos was arrested in a bar at Port Orange, Florida, while police tracked down Moore in Pennsylvania. To avoid prosecution, Moore made a deal, and in mid-January of 1991, she elicited a phone confession from Wournos, who took full and sole responsibility for the murders. A media frenzy ensued over the case due in part to the lurid nature of the crimes. During the trial, Wournos asserted that she had been raped and assaulted by Mallory and had killed him in self-defense. Though not revealed in court, Mallory had previously served a decade-long prison sentence for sexual assault. She stated that her killing of the 5 other men had been in self-defense as well, though she would later retract these statements. On January 27, 1992, a jury found Wournos guilty of first-degree murder for the Mallory case, and she received the death penalty. Over the ensuing months, Wournos pled guilty to the murder of 5 other men whose murders she was charged with, and received a death penalty for each plea. Outside of court, she later admitted to killing of Sims, whose body was never recovered. Spending a decade on death row, Wournos eventually opted to fire her appeals lawyers who were working for a stay of execution, but a court-appointed attorney was concerned about comments made by Wournos that suggested she was profoundly disconnected from reality. In 2002, Florida Governor Jeb Bush lifted a temporary stay of execution after 3 psychiatrists deemed her mentally competent to understand the death penalty and the reasons for its implementation. Wournos was executed by lethal injection on the morning of October 9, 2002. Her reported last words were, "I'd just like to say I'm sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus, June 6th, like the movie. Big mothership and all, I'll be back." Wournos' remains were cremated and scattered by a tree in her hometown in Michigan, as well as some of the remains being at the Last Resort bar in Port Orange, Florida, where she was arrested.
I have made peace with my Lord, and I have asked forgiveness. I am sorry that my acts of self-defense ended up in court like this, but I take full responsibility for my actions. It was them or me. I am sorry for all the pain that my actions have caused. I am prepared to die if you say it is necessary.
I sentence you in case number 91-463 to death for the murder of Troy Burris. Case number 91-304, I sentence you to death for the murder of Charles Humphreys. Case number 91-112, Citrus County case number, I sentence you to death for the murder of David Spears.
Thank you. And probably see, I'll be up in heaven while y'all rotting in hell.
We will handle that.
You get
on
raped in the
form
ass
of
one of these
Fifth
days.
Circuit to handle that.
Okay, there will be an automatic appeal. You have the right to an appeal. Mr. Glazer, is that going to be handled by you
May
or the
your
public
wife and
defender?
kids get raped.
I would ask that you would
Right
appoint
in
the
the
public defender's
ass.
office.
Okay,
to handle the appeal.
I'll appoint the public defender's office to handle the appeal. There's one other thing that I want to say that I think needs to be said.
I know I was raped, and you aren't nothing but a bunch of scum.
Therefore, these proceedings are now
Putting
completed.
somebody who was raped to death, motherfucker!
So David was the unfortunate second victim of Aileen and her robbery murders that occurred in 1990. May David rest in peace. And as always, I'm going to leave a penny, like I always do, to show that I came and paid my respects. This is penny right here. So David was the second victim of Aileen Wournos' rampage. If you want to come pay your respects to David Spears, there's 3 entrances into this cemetery. The easiest one is probably the middle one. You come in, which is right behind me. The road wraps around. You can park along here right across the side. And some trees we're going to take for some landmarks. There's a couple trees right here. There's also these 2 tall, skinny trees that are almost about three graves to the right of David's. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. As always, I hope that you continue to look for the history in film. So until next time.